Tony's the consummate physician, embodying all the characteristics that you want in a good physician. He's got the knowledge and the skills and the attitude and compassion. And he's a teacher, and he's a researcher, and he's an administrator. He's a great clinician, wonderful man.
In our class, we would always say that Tony was the guy that had all the class.
Tony gives you his attention when you're talking to him, and he's not thinking about other things. He could be concerned about other things, but he gives you his full attention. And you know that, yes, he's interested in what you have to say.
I was born in Barbados, and I can actually say I was born at home, because in those days Barbadian children were pretty well born right in their mother's beds. If there is a heaven for me, it would be being a small boy, spending the whole day outdoors, fishing in little pools among the rocks, exploring gullies and creeks and finding little crayfish and interesting things. As a schoolboy, I was always interested in science, and in fact I specialized very early on in the sciences, just doing chemistry, physics and mathematics. I started with a little chemistry set at home, and that grew into a small chemistry laboratory, and I used to do experiments in the house. But I invented a new rocket fuel, and I made a little rocket, and I took it to the top of our house in this sleepy suburban neighborhood and tried to launch this rocket off the roof. I thought, this one's going to the moon. It's going to be so powerful. There was the most god-awful explosion. And it was spectacular. It was just like a discontinuity in the universe. And after what was probably a split second, and it seemed like an age of dead silence, it was like an explosion of blackbirds out of every tree in the neighborhood, scattering in all directions. Another second, and the dogs exploding out of the houses. And a few more seconds, and people running into the streets. But fortunately, no damage was done. I just had to keep a low profile for a few hours.
I was working in Barbados, and he came home on holiday from England. And I met him at the house of an old friend of the family's. He was quite a kind person, and enjoyed doing things that I liked to do.
I always thought I'd return to England and make a career there. But I met Pat, stayed in Barbados, and that opened up the vista of perhaps coming to Canada. And I had no clue what I really wanted to do. And Pat suggested that I take this vocational counseling that the University of Alberta offered, and they told me I should be a doctor. It was a man called a Mr. Fisher, and he did me the biggest favor perhaps that anybody ever did. And I was arguing against it. All the reasons I didn't want to be a doctor, all the reasons I shouldn't be a doctor. And whatever I came up with, he countered it. I went home and talked to Pat about it, and we actually made the decision together that I should go through medicine.
Tony was a little older than the rest of us, quiet, unassuming kind of guy, until the first set of marks came out. You know, they have a bell curve, right? Well, here was the bell curve, and then there was this big space, and then there was this one little blip at the top end, and that was Tony. And that was the way he was all the way through medical school. He was uncatchable.
Hey, Phil. How are you keeping?
I'm doing really well. Yeah, as I said the last time. When he's looking after you, he makes you feel that you are the only patient he has. Most doctors, come in and they have their hands on the doorknob, and he never, ever, and it doesn't matter, we know sometimes he's supposed to be from there, and he's supposed to be there, and he's supposed to be there, but he comes into the room and the patient never knows that he's running short of time, never.
Something that I met in medical school and have enjoyed ever since that I never appreciated before was the working with people, the rapport with patients, that very special relationship between the patient and the physician. It's something which, as a physician, you feel every day privileged to be able to experience. The challenge is the person suffering from the cancer, and the interaction with that person, the journey towards finding peace with the disease.
I think that Tony Fields is one of those people that everybody else would really like to try and be like. If he's your friend, he can't do enough for you, and he can't say enough and make things good enough for you.
Congratulations, Tony. You are the best.